Welcome to the BizDev podcast. We're super excited today. We're interviewing a very successful real estate businessman, Scott Shuster. He's with the Philadelphia Property Group. Thanks for coming. We're very excited.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It took a long time to make this happen.
I know, with COVID and everything, I'm super excited we can talk maskless and enjoy your company. So I'm very excited. Just tell us about your business, just real quick.
Sure thing. So Philadelphia Property Group is a sort of like an umbrella for a bunch of properties that I mostly own. I also have a couple that I own with a partner of mine and a silent partner. And we probably have about, or total, under the Philadelphia Property Group name, we're right around 25 to 30 properties. Asset value of just under 20 million.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool. We have a student housing component to that. We have 130 beds, just right around 130 beds for the student housing. We have mixed use properties, commercial properties, retail tenants, apartments. So it's really pretty cool. It's a nice big collection of properties that are really neat.
Awesome. How'd you get your first property? Like, what's that story like?
So the first one we bought was on 18th and Chestnut. I was working for who was my partner now, my real estate partner. He was my boss at the time. He had an art gallery. I joined him, and we bought the property because we thought we were going to move the art gallery to this building. But before we even got into it, we realized that the building wasn't large enough. And we paid $475,000 for the property. Ended up selling it 14 years later for $2,235,000. Wow. It's a huge profit.
That's a great buy and hold strategy.
Yeah, I got to live there for 14 years. Lived in took the top 2 floors, built this great roof deck on top. And that was about 2001, we bought that property. Mm-hmm. And I came out of law school in '98, and I worked I didn't actually leave the art business until about 2012. Right around 2008, 9, 10, my father turned around to me and said, you're making as much money in the real estate as you are in the art business. And I said, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, to build up from one property and hold it for 14 years, that's like a huge home run. That's awesome. So I'm curious, I'm sure our listeners are, what makes you different than, the regular investor? How'd you go about that?
So I had no real estate training, no real estate background at all.
And this is what time frame?
So this is now 2001, we, get this first property.
Okay.
And we're supposed to move the art gallery in there, and it turns out, no, you can't move in there. We're not moving in there. And, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with it? Let's make it work. And I learned how to do construction on the fly, convert the whole property to apartments, find tenants for it, for the apartments, also to find a retail tenant. I made a ton of mistakes just on that one property. I speak to Drexel all the time. So one of the lectures that I give is, and I dangle it for the end, and I say, listen, guys, at the last lecture, it's going to be all my mistakes. Mm-hmm. You're going to get 20 years of experience in 2 hours. So that property, there was good mistakes that were made there.
So what's your process like when you're analyzing a property? You're trying to determine, is this a good asset that I want to own?
So before we even get to that, so we're a little different. I'm different. Mm-hmm. The way that I look at real estate is just different than, God, if you went to 9 out of 10 real estate experts, they would tell you I'm doing it wrong. Okay. Yeah. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. And I've seen some of the people you've interviewed, and some of those people would tell you, Scott Shuster, he's the way he does it. But it works for me. Okay. And that's the really cool thing about real estate, is that you can make it work for your lifestyle, your interest, your things. So I always like to buy properties that are interesting to me, or a good location. I'm not a guy who goes out to Kensington or down there although I did own a property in Point Breeze, but I'm not going out to the fringes. I'm not looking for appreciation. Appreciation really, even though we made a lot of money on that one property, it was secondary to the getting to live for free and collecting rent that whole time. The cash flow is more important to me. The ease of cash flow is important to me. That's why I like the student housing.
Okay.
If you create something that has demand, and this I learned from the art business, they're not tenants to me, they're clients, they're customers. So I'm really giving them something that I think they'll want, that they're gonna enjoy living in. We give them better service. I don't have a whole company under me either. That's another thing that's like different from me from other people.
Okay. How's that?
I don't go to an office every day. I don't have to, do these things. I have a lot of independent contractors.
Okay.
When the time comes to rent the properties, I hire people to help me rent the properties. When there's maintenance that needs to be done, I have a company that I pass off all the maintenance to this company. When it comes time for the construction, which is probably one of the parts that I'm more involved in, the acquisition and the construction, because I do have the legal background, I hire a GC to handle all that. And,
Okay.
I've had different GCs over the year. They always switch. There's always company. But I can have at any time, I could have maybe 20 or 30 people that I'm paying. Like later today, I'm going to have to, go make some payments because it's Friday.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. But, I really delegate. And a lot of these people don't even talk to each other. They don't even know each other.
The different parties.
The different parties. They
Okay.
they know me and they know our company or they know my company, what we call it. But each project is individual. I'm not into growing, acquisition, all that stuff. I don't have that same type of drive or ambition.
So like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Allowing the real estate to be a vehicle
Exactly.
to allow you to
Exactly.
function with the cash flow and everything.
Exactly.
I think it's really interesting how you mentioned you don't see more like a tenant, you see him more like a client.
Yeah.
So I guess that comes from the art a little bit, or that was like the...
No, that comes from the art world.
Okay.
That's definitely the art world. That's, and it could be any tenant. I have a tenant now who, guy takes a master lease for one of my properties, and meaning what that means is he'll take 4 apartments and he's going to re-rent them out and do them. But
Okay.
I've had restaurants as tenants. I want those restaurants to succeed.
Yeah.
If my tenant's not succeeding, he's not paying the rent and I'm not succeeding, or not even making a living. It's going to be a negative cash flow.
Yeah.
So you really got it. I really support my tenants and my people and everybody that I know. I think we met because of in a roundabout way through Drexel and different things and through tenants. And stuff like that. So
when you're looking, like just for our listeners, if they're buying a property, like how do you vet out or deal with a contractor? I know that's a big question. Like what's your process?
With the contractor?
Yeah, like hiring somebody, knowing they're not gonna put it to you.
Well, fortunately, what's the expression? A ton of mistakes makes experience. I have a really good instinct on people now.
Okay.
I also check them out. I like to work with people that I like. I mean, we could get into so much detail on each aspect. A lot of times when I'm acquiring a property, it's not necessarily where I turn around and I'm always trying to acquire or I'm always searching. It's just all of a sudden I may get like, oh, you know what, I'm sitting on a lot of money or I'm not doing much right now or I have the feel or I have the bug. Let's go buy something, let's go get something.
You get opportunities off market or like
Yes.
MLS? Okay.
So, but I am a huge MLS guy. So, whether it's Redfin, Zillow, any of those things, I'm looking.
Okay.
Like I got something in Point Breeze. I got what was it? It was a liquor store years ago. And I think I paid $325,000. And I was like, you know what? That'd be a cool tenant. A wine and spirits.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania. And it's down in Point Breeze. And I know Point Breeze is getting better. So, it's cheap enough. Let's try it. And then I sold it for maybe 2 years later for like double, which was cool.
Did you do work to it, or?
Yeah, I mean, that building always had problems.
Gotcha.
There was always an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, it was ongoing. And, you know, and having the state as a tenant was pretty exciting, too. You know, the governor actually signs the lease.
Oh, really?
That was kind of
Actual signature?
Yeah. Or maybe it's a stamp.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It was pretty cool.
That's cool. And I know you kind of, after the commercial property, I know you've gotten to student housing. How is that different than a regular, like, single family? Like, how does...
So the student, well, I don't do any single families.
Okay.
So I'm either going to do a student housing property, or I'm going to do a mixed use or commercial. Those are the ones that interest me. I just bought something in Old City and on 3rd Street.
Okay.
And I love it. It's a cool building. It's double wide and it's 5 stories, but
Wow.
the construction's going to be a lot, and I'm not sure if I'm a little constructioned out. Like the last, because of COVID, what just happened, it's been, I know a lot of people were dead and not doing anything, but I got really busy. And
how's that?
Because I bought a lot of property.
You saw, like, opportunities coming in?
Yeah, so it was a strange time because there was always, like, certain blocks that I have where I'm like, if a property ever pops up in that area, I'll buy it. And because of COVID, these properties started popping up because they didn't rent. And with the student housing, most of the landlords, if they don't rent out their property, they turn around and they say, well, I may as well put it up for sale. And because of COVID and the interest rates were real low, the prices were through the roof.
Yeah.
So these people had the opportunity, these sellers, to make a lot of money. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually sitting on a lot of money because I sold a big property, and let's just buy them. And that's the difference here too between me is I'm not nickel and diming. I'm not looking at the margin. I'm not looking at this. I'm saying to myself, here's a property on a block I like. I'm overpaying for it, without a doubt. I am overpaying for this property.
And you know that?
I know that. And I know that construction now is going to cost a fortune.
Yeah.
It's 2 to 3 times what it should be. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean,
2 to 3. I know lumber's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe the supplies or this and that. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's going to be a lot more. It's going to take a lot longer. That's for sure, too, because you can't get anything. So, but I know that this house is going to be awesome. It's on a great block. I'm going to make it super cool because of my art background. Here's one. So I must have bought 5 properties in the last year. And, like, the one that I'm thinking of right now is I'm going to make this house specifically for girls.
Oh.
It's always going to be for girls.
And this is student
housing.
Okay.
And we're putting in the fanciest flower tile and little butterflies and special colors and extra kitchen stuff and wider bathrooms and bigger cabinets for all their stuff and bedrooms that do this and that, and it's going to be I don't see boys ever renting it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just always going to be a girl's house. And it's kind of neat because most landlords don't look at it that big. They go, all right, we need something vanilla. We need our vanilla box that we can fit anybody in here.
Yeah.
And I just did a commercial space like that on 19th and Sansom, right off of Rittenhouse Square. So talking about acquisition. My friend had this building. I always kept trying to buy it from him. He ended up unfortunately passing away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I bought it from the family. I said, listen, and I overpaid for that too, probably. I don't mind overpaying for good things. I've learned that from the art world too.
If you know you can get in there.
If you know you can enjoy it, you can have it. It's something cool to have. I have a daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She could eventually get all this stuff. So real estate's a long game for me. When I buy things, because I really like to keep things simple, I pay cash for everything. And, I've built up to that. I've now got enough. I have a very low loan-to-value ratio on our portfolio. So if let's say we're $20 million, I don't think we owe more than $8 or $9 million to the bank.
Wow.
Probably less than that.
Wow. That's awesome.
It could be a lot less. Maybe 7, 8. So that's a really low loan to value. And but it makes that higher profit margin, the higher cash flow come in. I would definitely have a higher return if I borrowed more money against the property. But I like to sleep at night. I don't like to worry. I like to know that, if I do have an empty property, it's not breaking the bank.
It's
not going to kill me.
Not so leveraged up.
Yeah.
To where
I can take the time I do, for certain things, and I'm not always totally laid back too. For certain things, I'm going back to the contractors. I'm cracking the whip. And that's one of the things where I'm like, we got to go, we got to finish. Because with the student housing, you get deadlines.
They're moving
September,
in.
that's it.
Yeah.
They're
ready.
You got to do it. So if I buy a property in January, February, March, it's got to be done.
Ready to showing it.
Exactly.
So that takes a lot of strategy. That's cool though. You're seeing project at a time. You're building it over and over and over. So you buy it cash. So I guess you might go to the bank though and refinance.
Yeah.
What's the strat? Like how do you use it as a tool?
So once the property's stabilized and fully fixed up, rehabbed, now it's rented or I have a solid lease on it. Now I can go to the bank and I'll say, hey, look, here's what I got here. And this is why I was really successful, and the way that I do it really makes sense to me and really worked for me, was I was buying these properties and they weren't undervalued or anything like that. Some were undervalued, but, like the last one I just bought, I paid $400,000. I put $100,000 into it. I'm into it for $500,000. I rent it for $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. That'll appraise now for $650,000. At $60,000 a year off the income approach, it's worth $650,000, $700,000, and I can borrow 65 to 75, or 65 to 75, usually 70, against that appraised value. So all of a sudden, I'm getting like all my money back, and then I can do it again.
Yeah.
And I can do it again, and I'm paying cash for the property, which is great too, because God, I hate the underwriting process with these banks, and then you're under a deadline. Well, I got to settle next week, and I got to this and that, and they always need one more document.
It's stress.
Yeah, and if I'm if I already have the property stabilized, I can go to any bank I want, and I can play the banks off of each other.
So you're like going to each bank saying, hey, I have this one. Who's interested? Who can give me the best terms?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And I'll use a mortgage broker. The mortgage brokers, that's their job. I don't mind paying their fee.
For them to do the work.
For them to do the work.
Just for our audience, like what's a mortgage broker?
So a mortgage broker is a guy or girl, a company that specializes in taking an investor like me or a property and finding the right product, going to different banks, getting the different, they call it products, but it's really the different type of mortgages you can get.
Okay.
And they'll offer you, and I try and get, I'm different like this too. I get the long mortgages. I get the 25, 30-year fixed mortgages.
Okay.
So I'm not always getting the lowest rate. To me, it's a long game. So I'm not trying to maximize everything right now and go, I have mortgages right now that are like 5.5%. People laugh. I think even 6%.
But you see it as a long-term play.
It's a 30-year fixed rate.
Okay.
I've been wrong. I have friends who were playing the mortgage game and playing the interest rate game for the last 15 years, and they were right.
Yeah.
But
it's just a different,
it's a
approach.
Different thing. Yeah. So could have I played that game? Yeah, probably. But it was. But at the same time, I can sit back and say, "All right, I got this mortgage. It's done. I don't have to do it."
Well,
it's a lot of work to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Dealing with the bank is a lot of work, and so if you have a good one and you have somebody you like, it's good. It's good to keep with that.
That's an interesting approach because I feel like nowadays, like everyone wants something instant. Bezos or Amazon's trying to get us our products within 2 hours now. So it's like. It's just cool, like, your view on it, like, you're thinking decades, not years.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm kind of taking it, because, Bill Gates actually has a pretty cool quote. He says, people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but it seems like the approach that you did, because you're thinking, like, okay, I'm going to go for the longer terms, just to hold that in there, lock that security, the debt, and thinking about the properties. It's hard because, people are becoming millionaires on Bitcoin, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's been 3 weeks and I'm not a millionaire yet. I don't know. To me, it's like I love like the long term. It's hard to see that, but like it sounds like you have the discipline to think that ahead and like to see Philadelphia where it's come from since
Right.
the early 2000s. It's
I mean, I have flipped properties. I have sold things because you do have to do that to
keep things
recapture capital and or stockpile. We had a great property, 22nd and Market. I paid $890 for it. And I'll give you this is like the grand slam of grand slams.
And then what year
This
was
is, I don't know, 2012, 2013.
Okay.
So I buy this property with my partner at the time. And we buy the property and it's $890,000. I end up getting a great tenant in there, 7-Eleven. It's a great tenant. I mean, they're not as popular now as they were then, with Wawa and everything, but 7-Eleven. And they end up getting to, I'm able to, with their lease, I think they were paying $12,000 or $13,000 a month. The property appraises at $1.4 million. I think even more than that. I pulled out $1.4 million out of the property. Now I just paid $890. So not only did I get all my money back, but it just made another, $600,000, $500,000 over it, which is great. So there's a profit right there, and this is how you get rich. I mean, this is the right way to do things. 7-Eleven wants to go in, and they got all this list of stuff to do. I mean, you got to turn this bank into a 7-Eleven. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to pretend that I know how to do that. And I just said, guys, you're 7-Eleven. I'm sure you know how to do this. Okay? How much time do you need? All I have is time. I have no skills to help you with beyond that. And, I don't even want to pretend that I'm going to build whatever they want built, a refrigerator or this or that. So if they ask for 3 months, I'm like, you can have 6. If they ask for 6, I'd give them 12. It doesn't, I'm generous that way. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them happy. I've made my money. And I'm going to keep making money. Turns out down the road, a guy buys up the whole block.
Okay.
And now he wants to build a high rise. And we have the corner property. This is 22nd and Market. We end up selling it for just under $5 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is a.
So this is grand slam of grand slam. I cashed out once. I cashed out again. Now I have a huge 1031.
Yeah.
Now I've got to go on this buying spree. And that all happened right before COVID. So this is what also generated a lot of COVID issues. Like how do you buy properties? How do you do this? How do you construct?
So Scott, why don't you tell our audience what a 1031, I know it's 1031 or 1031 exchange?
It's called a 1031 exchange, which comes from the IRS tax code.
Okay.
And that's the section 1031. And there's talk that they're going to get rid of it. They're going to get rid of the 1031, the stepped up basis and the capital gains, increase the capital gains, which we can go into.
Yeah.
But a 1031 exchange means when you sell, so when we sold that 7-Eleven property for $5 million, we'll call it 5. It wasn't 5, but it was close to 5. And we paid $890 or $1 million. So, there was a $4 million profit.
Spread. Okay.
So that $4 million profit, to avoid paying capital gains tax on that, which is right around 30% of that, which they're increasing. They want to increase it now to over 50%. It could be as high as 54% in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Okay? So the way to avoid paying that capital gains tax is to reinvest all the money into new property, new real estate. And that's what you do that. That's the idea. That's how you keep building up your real estate and building and building and building. Now, eventually there will be a day of reckoning. When you sell everything and you cash out, that'll happen.
Or isn't it if you die, it goes to your heirs and...
So yes, so we call that the stepped up basis.
Okay.
And your heirs would get a stepped up basis, meaning they inherit the property at the fair market value of the property at that time of transfer. So I die in 2050. My daughter gets these properties. Theoretically, that if I still had that one, that $5 million, and let's say it was now worth $10 million at that time, she would inherit the property at a $10 million value. They're going to get rid of that. There's talk to get rid of that, and she would actually inherit the property if that happened. Speaking of this hypothetical property that I sold her, she would get it at my basis, my original basis of $890,000, and if it was worth $10 million at the time of transfer, she would have to pay at that time a capital gains tax, income tax, from that $890 to $10 million, which would be a $9 million gain. And let's say it's at 54% at that point, so now we're $4.5 million. She would have to pay $4.5 million of taxes at that time of my death. So besides being upset at my demise, she's going to be upset to have to pay $4.5 million in taxes.
Kind of takes the wind out of the sails, huh?
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
So what is what are the odds it's anyone's question, but like...
It's a big one.
Yeah.
You hate to see your life's work kind of go to the side. Maybe there'll be some sort of drawbacks. Maybe it won't be 54%. Maybe it'll be 35 or 40% or 45%. Maybe it won't be a full... maybe they won't get rid of the 1031. That's the other thing. If they get rid of the 1031, everybody, once you sell a property, regardless, you have to pay the tax right then and there. So if they get rid of the 1031, that's going to... But I don't think that's going to happen. Getting rid of the 1031 would be really bad for the economy. Because people use that money that they're not paying tax on by not only buying another property, but remember, when you buy a property, you have to improve it. So, at any time I'm hiring, I may have 0 people working for me, or I may have 30 or 40 or 50 people working for me at a certain time. My organization is, not that it's loose, it's very tight, and I have people reporting directly to me, but we're not, we're project to project to project.
Okay, so you have like a team.
I have a team of people who don't even really know each other sometimes. They're all independent, and if I need this, I go to that guy. If I need this, I go to that guy. And sometimes they talk.
Yeah.
I put them in touch with each other. But, but my thing is Elvis. Elvis said TCB, taking care of business. For me, it's SOTOT, stay on top of things.
Okay.
So every single thing in my business flows through me. I'm the center of the hub. It's like a wheel, and I'm the center, and I have these spokes that go out, and
so you see everything
stuff comes back in
going on.
Yeah, so one spoke is all the tenants and all the maintenance, and every single email, text message, whatever, comes in through me. I see everything. I will pass that off then to the right person or people.
Gotcha.
I may not even respond. I may not even get involved, but I see it, and I.
Hey, okay, that happened. We put a new fridge there. Okay, that person's already taking care of it.
We got a leak. We got a trash. We got this. We got that. You got squirrels. Trees, lightning, whatever. All the payments, all the money. I see every single cent that comes in. I see every cent that goes out. All the leases. Me with my legal background, I handle the lease work.
Okay.
I do the leases. I like to do the leases. I like to get involved right on that level. I like being involved in the startup of things. So whether it's the startup of the construction, the startup of the tenants, I like to, getting them then to sign the lease, to get involved in the lease, to make their initial payments. I like being involved in that. Once the thing is up and running, I then kind of take a back seat. I'm hidden behind the website, my other workers, other things like that, and the quote unquote office.
Yeah. And
then I kind of manage things that way. And then I'm playing with my daughter. I'm swimming. I'm thinking of vacation. I'm riding my bike.
So the real estate gives you like more of a vehicle of like somewhat of a lifestyle. That it's the show. You worked on this one project. You got it started. You put all your attention on that. And then once it's up and running, it kind of almost self-sufficient.
I love it. I love building it and watching it go. That's the part that that's the part that I love. I love, and that's why I'm also more involved in the construction, just because I like that part.
Okay.
A lot of times. I mean, nobody likes construction, but I do like the building aspect. I love the idea that like I turned some crappy house, some hoarder's nest, something that, not to be morbid, but a lot of times people die in it, and and these things like this, and you turn these properties into, you bring them back to life. And whether it's a commercial tenant, a retail tenant, we've had restaurants, we've had shoe stores, clothing stores, some really neat, cool things going on. Some cool art galleries too. Not even the art gallery I was associated with, just cool. Different ones. And you get people going and you help them, and it's kind of fun. And then people are living in something you built, which is cool too. So that's a cool feeling. Like, yeah.
You ever like get into a project and it's like, sometimes like I've been in some houses where it's, or seen a house someone was flipping and it's like overwhelming. It's like, whoa, okay, there's no ceiling. Okay, that's a hole.
No.
Like, does that, so you have the vision to see, okay,
yeah,
you can see the diamond in the rough. Like,
I really don't have a problem with
okay.
that. I go in and like, I've seen, it's funny. My wife, when we look at houses, she can't even like get past the drapes, And I'm like, look at. She's like, how do they decorate it like this? And I'm like, babe,
why would they're walls? I mean, they can be blank, and you
we
already
can
see.
I'm seeing the walls knocked down. I'm seeing the space. I'm seeing the yard. I'm seeing the location.
And that's, I guess, with the art view, like you can see, kind of like the beauty in it, or see something further than what somebody else is looking at.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times what I'm looking for is really good bones. You're looking for if a floor is cockeyed, that throws me off.
Just because like structure.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just don't like being cockeyed. That throws me off. I love high ceilings and stuff like that. I'll rip out ceilings and do things like that. Moving stairwells. Nobody even thinks of that.
Like an actual like.
Yeah, we don't need the stairs here.
And then
move the stairs. Just move them.
It's like,
yeah.
Like the utility of that is like to broaden that specific room or the space.
Yeah, or do something different. Get rid of stairs, build stairs. Change things like that. We'll change things. It's cool. It's neat to think like that. I've never built anything from the ground up though.
Do you want to do that? Is that?
I bought a house. I just bought something, and I'm working on a big project on 32nd Street, and I'm about to tear down this house, but I kind of want to tear down all the properties on the block and be involved in a really big project on Drexel Park.
Okay.
So I've been in touch with Drexel, and I've been in touch with the community, and the idea, because none of those houses are as nice as we make them. They're never going to be as nice as like a brand new building.
Yeah. That's a perfect area too.
So yeah, that's
City
really
view.
Cool.
Where do you with that project? Where do you stand? Is that like the early stages? Like how long might that take?
I'm the guy who actually organized all the neighbors. I actually reached out to everybody. I've got everybody grouped together. We've got sort of like our square footage and our foot plan. I went to like a designer who designed something, but it was like a stolen design from another project where it's like, well, this is what we just did in Delaware, but you could do this here. And we're now talking to the community and talking to Drexel, and it's really cool. That's exciting, but that's like one of those like it's like the long shot. It's the half court shot.
Gotcha.
It's a.
All the pieces fit together.
Yeah, and my role in it, like I said, I'll be in the startup stage right now, but eventually, there's much more qualified people than me to go handle, all the stuff.
So you might start that and then kind of.
My goal is to just sell my 3 lots to the developer.
Okay.
Let him build everything, and I'll keep a piece. Give me 2% of the new project.
So I think you learned something from the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Right. if you think about that, that's pretty. Hey, that'd be cool because I love like just we're in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You guys aren't listening, but like Drexel Park is a beautiful view of the city. It's right. It's pretty cool.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Sure.
You really got to think outside the box, and I hate that expression, but when the guys were trying to buy this 7-Eleven for me, they came to me and they said, "Well, how much is it worth?" And they could have bought it multiple times. We ended up selling it for just under $5 million, but they could have bought it for $2 million, for $3 million, for $4 million. There was an ongoing time where I was like, here, I'll give it to you for this. You can have it for $2 million. I wasn't greedy. You know, we made money. I only paid $890. I was like, yeah, I'll make $1 million. I was like, that'd be cool, you know? And we were always at kind of a glitch. And I remember one of the meetings we were at, I said, well, per square foot, this is what things go for, land goes for in the city per square foot, and whatever it was, I don't remember. But I said, oh, that's interesting. And they said, according to your footprint, this is how much your property is worth. And I think I was asking 3.5 million, and they were like at 2.5, you know? And I said, wow. I said, well, how many square feet do you guys have? You know, on your whole thing? Oh, we've got, you know, whatever, 120,000, whatever they said. And I pulled out my calculator, and I said, what was that number? I said,
According to you.
okay. I said, well, how about I buy your properties, your whole space, I take it off your hands, and I buy it all from you for, and I think it was like $10 million, whatever it was, you know? I was like, it had to be more than that, actually. But I was like, you know, I figured, why not?
Yeah.
So I really turned it around. And I was like, yeah, so you always got to, you know, it's fun to think that way.
Yeah.
It's fun where you just kind of, you know, you're not so serious and this and that. And you're like, you know what, I'll buy your thing.
Did that allow them to justify the higher, once you use that calculation, to the higher price for the 7-Eleven property?
Oh, no, the whole deal fell apart.
Oh, okay.
3 years later.
Gotcha, okay. I thought that's where it's going.
No,
I was like, oh, yeah, use their
no.
math against them.
No, they threw me out.
Oh.
They said, oh, forget you.
Yeah.
They said, that's it. But, you know, I like that. I like that story because it's or the true story, because it's a neat way to, it's neat to think differently. You know, real estate affords you to do that. You can really look at things and really just, like you said, it's the Bill Gates thing. You know, it's 10 years down the road. I'd be like, yeah, of course I want to own a square block on Market Street in Philadelphia, on the busiest street, you know, CMX 5, where you can build and they're building a high-rise, and we'll see it back there somewhere.
Really?
But yeah, they're building a high-rise now, and they bought our building. One guy didn't sell on the block, and he'll be like the old lady in Atlantic City where they're gonna build
really?
Yeah, I think they're gonna build around them.
Oh my goodness, this is like just a small little
nothing. Yeah. Wow. I'm dealing with that on 32nd Street too. One of the owners of the assemblage, they think that their property is worth crazy number.
Yeah. Just
like,
because.
yeah. Now, luckily, we don't need them. We could cut them out.
Okay.
But it's better to have them. But they're on the end.
Okay.
So.
And then I do know that area, I guess there's a big lot there too, right?
That's the lot.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they may see this video and
Yeah.
this podcast. But that's what it is.
Yeah. So like.
But they could be right. You know what?
Yeah.
They don't care. They've owned the property forever, and that's their number.
Yeah.
And that's their retirement fund or whatever, or their, you know, whatever. So everyone's owed, you know, they can think whatever they want.
Yeah. That's great. So where do you think, like, long-term vision, like, where do you think the real estate market's going to be in, well, let's just say Philadelphia. I know that's such a tough question, but like the progression of the Philadelphia market, like, what do you think in 5 years? I know it's a loaded question, but.
This one's too hard because of the current changes that are proposed. But without the 1031, without the stepped up basis and the increase in capital gains, I don't even want to speculate. It's anyone's guess. I'm always going to buy quality properties that make money. You know, I think
up or down.
Up or down. The market doesn't matter to me.
Because I mean, you're buying cash and you don't have to rely on a bank to. Yeah,
and the other thing too is that you really gotta. This is for your viewers. This is important. I think this is something that not enough people say this. A lot of people don't get into real estate because they're like, well, the market's too high right now, and I'm going to wait till it comes down. It may never come down, and it is what it is. This is it. It's today. We don't live in yesterday. We don't live in tomorrow. If you like it, and you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to make money off of it, buy it. You know, and the cool thing about real estate, and this is what I like about real estate better than artwork. Artwork, an artist could fall out of favor, and the artwork could go to zero. It could lose its complete value. I mean,
That's interesting. I didn't know too. I didn't know.
yeah.
Just because it's not the hot.
There's a great artist, Urte.
Okay.
You know, and McKnight and Shveko and these other guys, Pino. I mean, all of a sudden, these artists, they're hot for a minute, and it's the hot thing, and they go from, you spend whatever, maybe you spend $2,500 for it, but it could go down to $200, $300, you know, nothing.
Sounds like crypto.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because of crypto, it's the same thing as crypto because it's a perceived value. The only value the crypto actually has is the value of the crypto, not the perceived value
It's
of it.
not even tangible.
Yeah.
It's the thought.
Yeah, the artwork, the only value the artwork has is the paint and the stretcher and the frame. You know, what you see and what you're imagining of it is nothing. Now, the cool thing with real estate is you actually have like a house.
Yeah.
People can live in it. It's got water. It's got a toilet. It's got this. That's what I love about cars. Cars actually drive and do stuff.
And you can build, like, that cool thing too, to your point, is just like you can build into it. And so it's kind of like an artwork in a sense, because you're growing something, you're seeing something that someone else isn't seeing. That's your interpretation of the property.
Yeah, you can change. You can keep it up with. You can keep it relevant. Doesn't lose its relevancy if it's in a good location. That's why sometimes I look at like these peripheral areas and I don't get into them because I go, oh, you could lose. You know, you may not be interested in. You know, whatever. You know, and I'm speaking to like Kensington or whatever, or these other areas. You know, could fall out of favor.
And it's funny you mentioned, because like I was a bit newer into the real estate market, and I was talking to a real estate guy. This was like 7 years ago, no, a little less than that, like 5 years ago. I was like, hey man, what do you think about Fishtown?
Right.
And he's like, oh dude, it's so overbuilt. It's so like too much money. You don't even want to touch that. It's like way. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you don't want to do that. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So like. So, but like, if I would have taken your advice and say, dude, okay, do you like it? Can it cash flow? Can you add value to it? I would have been in a different position. I took his advice, and I was like, okay, the market might crash. I was trying to time it. Like, I knew what I was doing. I didn't.
Just get in if you like, and especially, and Fishtown's a good example, and Kensington too, Fishtown or Kensington, but because maybe if it's making money today and you like it, for whatever reason, you think it's going to keep growing and it's going to stabilize and it's going to be a solid neighborhood, then that's fine. That's enough to go on. And if you feel that way today, I don't like the idea of, oh, this is an up-and-coming area and it's going to get better and I'm going to double my money on it. That is not the way I do real estate.
Okay.
I am not a speculator. I cannot tell the future.
Yeah.
I can only tell you the things that I did yesterday, you know, and what I'm doing today. What I'd like to do tomorrow, but I can't, there's no way I can predict the future. So, yeah, that's a big one. So if you like something, to all the viewers out there, if you like it, like, grab it, just go in. And that's the other thing, back to the real estate, it'll never go to zero. It's always gonna be worth something.
Yeah.
You know?
The lumber inside.
Yeah. Well, if you're renting it, if you got tenants in there, so if you have tenants in there, it's worth something all the time, and that's what I mean by a good neighborhood. If people are going to live there and you know use it, and whether the rent goes from $2,500 to $1,500 is not that big a deal. I mean, it could be, but it's not. You know,
depending on your situation.
Okay, so you paid $300,000 for a little property, and now it's worth $250,000. Big deal. You're still getting your $2,000 a month rent.
Yeah.
That's why I never worry about the fluctuating in values. The values mean nothing to me. It's not important to me.
So like, how should somebody, like, just from the most basic level, like, wow, this podcast was awesome, I really want to get into real estate. Like, what's some of like the first few steps they should consider? Right.
So always buy, you're going to want to buy in, I don't mean undervalued, but you want to buy something that you can add value to.
Okay. So I guess you don't want to buy from someone who just fixed it up. You don't want to buy a flip.
Well, that's not bad either, too.
Okay.
So there's two, but don't buy the middle property. You either want to buy the one you're adding value to, or you want to buy the super nice one.
Okay.
That in-between one, I guess that in-between one's probably not bad either. You're looking at the rent. Like, am I going to rent it? How hard is it going to be for me to rent this property? You know, that's what I'm always looking at. Is it going to sit empty, or am I going to be able to rent it? How much am I going to realistically be able to rent it for? And You know, is there going to be any vacancy? Is there going to be any maintenance and things like that? But what am I really going to rent it for? And then, you know, and then what you can afford. And then don't worry about like, oh, you know, people talk about the 10% rule. You know, if I pay $200,000, I need to make $20,000.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, that's out the window. That's like yesteryear.
Okay.
You know, now it's, even if you're making anything 9%, 8%, 7%, you know, you can manipulate things and change things. You can fix it up a little bit and do things, and you can raise the rent. You can do things. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you're stuck with what it is and it goes down. But you're still got money coming in.
Yeah.
You know, I think people starting out in real estate, you know, I was very fortunate. I had 2 jobs. You know, I was able to always overpay for properties because I was working, I had the art job. And I was making a lot of money in the art business. So I was like, all right, you know, big deal. I'll overpay for something. I'm 25 years old. Who cares? You know, it's not, you know, I got money coming in. I'm making, you know, I wasn't making that much money. I was making $100,000 a year. You know.
In the 90s?
Yeah, I started out, well, no, when my first salary was $56,500 a year out of law school. So
yeah,
that's like nothing these days, but that's what it was. But I was making enough money, and I was able to, and I had another job, and I was working crazy hours, and I was, you know, and if you can afford to carry it, and you can, and it rents, that's the biggest thing. Is this property going to rent? Am I going to have income off of it? You don't want anything sitting empty, and you don't want to be like pretending like, oh, I'm the guy who's going to double my money. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to flip it.
Speculating.
Yeah.
And you don't have tenants, and it's not.
Right.
It's sitting there.
Yeah. Some speculators are amazing though. Some guys make a fortune doing that. I mean, like way wealthier than I am. So some guy, I'm not that guy though.
Well, that's a beautiful thing with real estate. Like you don't have to. There's not one cookie cutter way to do it. There's so many levels and tax strategies, and you know, building new, flipping. So I think it's really.
But see, I don't even think that complicated though. But there are those. But
like the way you put it, I think it adds a lot of value to our listeners. It's just like you simplify it. You know, super simple. And the cool thing is, it worked.
Worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked for me. Look, some guys are condo guys. You know, they've got a whole system of condos, or they build and then they sell out the condos.
Well, Scott, dude, I appreciate you letting us come and talk, and I've learned a lot. I'm super excited, you know, to watch this again, because like there's so many like nuggets you put in here. But yeah, brother, thank you so much.